Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take the sources you send us, pull out the really key ideas, and basically give you a shortcut to feeling well informed. Maybe spark a few aha moments too.
Exactly. We sift through it all, find the core concepts, the things that really stand out in the material we get.
And today we're jumping into something pretty unusual. It's about Walter Russell and this, well, extraordinary experience he had way back in May 1921.
Yeah, Russell. Not your standard academic figure, was he? More an artist, sculptor, composer.
The source we're using actually calls him a most unusual specimen, which kind of sets the stage.
A creative, definitely thinking outside the usual boxes of science or philosophy.
Okay, but here's where it gets really mind-bending. For 39 days, Russell apparently went into this state called cosmic illumination.
Right. Not sleep, not a coma, something else entirely.
Yeah, a total immersion in what he called cosmic consciousness. Well, it really pushes the boundaries of how we normally think about reality, doesn't it?
It definitely challenges our basic assumptions. Consciousness, existence, all of it.
So our mission here is to explore the main insights Russell said he gained during that time. They're mostly in his book, The Universal One.
And we want to think about why these ideas, which frankly got dismissed at first, might actually be relevant now.
Are there connections, maybe, to older philosophies or even modern science?
That's the key question. We need to see if there are parallels, these echoes, across different ways of knowing.
And helping us piece this together, we've got some excerpts from Introduction Whispers from the source. The author uses the name Zoran.
Described as an old observer, someone with this incredibly long view of time. Uses names like World Serpent, Sky Dancer.
Which certainly piques your curiosity. It suggests a perspective that's, well, ancient.
Exactly. Zoran's framing immediately gives you this sense that these ideas might be timeless, maybe just coming around again for a new kind of understanding.
Okay, so let's really get into it. Those 39 days, what did Walter Russell actually experience? What was the gist of it?
Well, according to Zoran's account, the core thing was a huge shift in how he perceived everything. He saw the universe differently.
How so?
Not as, a bunch of separate dead objects, but as one single, living, interconnected process.
Interconnected. So like a star and a flower aren't fundamentally separate things.
That's the implication. They're part of a larger, unified whole. A big departure from just seeing things as sort of machine carts.
And Zoran says it went beyond just the physical connections, too.
Oh, definitely. Russell apparently understood creation itself as this dynamic mix of energy and thought, not just particles banging together.
Energy and thought. So like consciousness is involved in making reality.
That seems to be the idea. A mental aspect to creation. He also felt he saw the underlying principles, the rules governing everything.
Everything, from stars down to flowers, you said.
Exactly. An inherent order and intelligence kind of woven into the fabric of reality at all scales.
Which led him to this idea of the universe as divine thought, expressed through rhythms, light and motion. That sounds quite poetic almost.
It does, but the emphasis on rhythm and light is important. It suggests a universe that's dynamic, not static, constantly vibrating, moving.
And the divine thought part.
It points towards some kind of foundational intelligence or intention behind it all. And maybe light is the medium, the way this thought takes form in these rhythmic patterns.
Okay, so he comes out of this 39-day experience, and Zoran says he's just overflowing with this knowledge.
Right, and driven to write it all down in the Universal One.
Must have been a jarring contrast to how science saw things back then. How did people react?
Well, mostly dismissal. Widespread dismissal, actually.
Why? Because he was an artist.
That was a big part of it. He didn't have the usual scientific credentials, and the whole thing came from this very subjective, mystical kind of experience.
So the scientific establishment just kind of patted him on the head and said, interesting hallucinations.
Pretty much. Zoran highlights how dominant materialism was then. Everything had to be purely physical, measurable, subjective insights, cosmic consciousness. That didn't fit.
Understandable, I suppose, from that viewpoint. It's hard to measure cosmic illumination. But Zoran mentions one really significant exception.
Ah, yes, Nikola Tesla.
Now that's interesting.
Tesla, himself a visionary, working with unseen forces, unconventional ideas. He apparently saw something genuinely profound in Russell's work.
That's quite an endorsement. And didn't Tesla give him some pretty dramatic advice?
He did. Reportedly told Russell to lock his knowledge away. Keep it secret for 1,000 years.
1,000 years? Why?
The feeling is that Tesla saw how revolutionary it was. Maybe how disruptive. That humanity just wasn't ready for it yet, couldn't grasp the implications.
Which brings us to now. Why the renewed interest? Why look at Russell's ideas again today?
Zoran talked about cycles turning, like maybe our collective understanding is shifting, and also science itself is changing.
How so?
Well, some of Russell's core ideas, like that deep interconnectedness, they're starting to find echoes in, say, quantum physics.
Wow, like quantum entanglement,
Huh.
non-locality?
Exactly. Where particles seem linked across space in ways that defy old ideas of separation. It resonates, doesn't it?
It really does. So science might be, in a way, catching up to some of these insights that came from a totally different
It's
place.
just a possible convergence, yeah.
Zoran also notes this growing intuition many people feel now, a sense of connection, that maybe reality isn't just material stuff.
Which lines up nicely with Russell's basic premise.
It does. Maybe that old split between science and, let's call it spirituality, isn't quite so absolute.
Maybe there are different languages describing the same thing.
Perhaps, exploring different facets of one underlying reality.
The source mentions some other key themes from Russell, too, like light as substance, not just energy, but actual substance.
Right, and the universal rhythm, this constant dynamic cycling. Plus the idea that the cosmos is fundamentally mental in nature.
Lots to potentially explore there in the future.
Definitely. And Zoran hints at wider connections to ancient Eastern thought, Vedanta, Buddhism, Taoism, concepts like Maya or Yin Yang, and even neuroscience, how our brains construct reality.
Yes, altered states, perception, it all potentially weaves together. Parallels in physics, too. Maybe the energetic vacuum, the way galaxies move.
So the approach here isn't really about proving Russell was scientifically right in the conventional sense.
No, not exactly. It's more like Zoran suggests,
Yeah.
weaving a tapestry,
Mm.
taking threads from this intense personal experience, from ancient wisdom, from modern physics, from neuroscience.
And see if a bigger, more unified picture starts to emerge.
Exactly. Trying to see if these different threads point towards a reality that's more coherent, maybe more intelligent, more rhythmic than we thought.
A unified whole.
A coherent, intelligent, rhythmic whole, yeah. Which leads to that quote from Zoran you mentioned earlier.
Right, the one about the universe.
The universe is not a machine. It is a thought made visible, a rhythm danced into being.
That really sums it up, doesn't it? Okay, so to recap, Walter Russell has this incredibly intense experience, gets this vision of an interconnected, mental, rhythmic universe based on light.
Initially dismissed, but now finding new relevance as science evolves and maybe our collective intuition shifts too.
We're seeing these potential overlaps, these echoes, in fields from quantum physics to consciousness studies.
Suggesting that maybe his illumination, however unusual, gave him a peek at something fundamental about reality that we're only now starting to grapple with through other means.
It makes you ask, doesn't it? Could experiences like Russell's, these seemingly out there moments, actually hold vital clues about reality, clues that our standard methods might miss?
It's a profound question. What are the limits of our current ways of knowing? And if the universe is more like a thought or this interconnected energy field, what does that imply for us, for our place in it all?
Definitely food for thought. We've really just scratched the surface today. Clearly, there's so much more potentially connecting here.
Absolutely. Hopefully this gives you, the listener, a good starting point, sparks some curiosity to explore these ideas further on your own.
And that's what we aim for here on the deep dive, making complex ideas accessible, sparking that curiosity, and hopefully leaving you feeling informed and mentally stimulated. Thanks for joining us.